My name is Nick Goldschmidt. I'm the winemaker for Goldschmidt Vineyards, and today I'm going to talk a little bit about my understanding of wood and how we use that in relation to purchasing barrels to go along with the types of wine that we're trying to make. If you cut a tree, everyone's seen this before, you have these growth rings that occur in a tree. But what's more important is these things called medullary rays. You'll often see this in trees as well. These medullary rays are very important because they're actually a whole series of tubes, if you like, and as the tree grows, these are the tubes that allow that tree to grow through phloem and xylem and everything else that you've all heard about before. Well, firstly, let's also remember that the most important part in the wood industry are these people that make veneer. When you make veneer, you want to have lots of knots and grain twists and everything like that. When we make a barrel, we don't want that. When we make a barrel, we want to have nice straight grain. We don't want to be tied in with the veneer industry who want to have a lot of curves and knots and grain changes and everything like that. We want nice straight grain. So as the tree grows in France, in a nice straight grain tree, what they do is they'll bring this log in and they'll cut it. They'll cut it into quarters, and this is a quarter sawn log, and each one of these quarters is called a doublon. Not important. But basically they can now take this and they can split this log, because in a French tree it is very straight, so they can split the log straight down and have a nice tight grain, and from that they can make nice staves. Now with an American tree it's quite different. Same thing occurs, but because these medullary rays are much thicker, which is the other interesting thing, these medullary rays are very thick, and so we can cut across them. In a French tree, these medullary rays are very soft, the walls are very soft, and if we were to machine cut across, the barrel would leak because those medullary rays are not tight. Luckily in an American tree, those medullary rays are very tight, so we can basically cut this log and make more staves out of this tree than we can out of a French tree. In an American tree, we tend to have more grain twisting as well. Because these medullary rays are so strong, we can machine cut. The other piece that I find interesting in terms of purchasing a French barrel is, and I joke with the French quite often, we have a lot of French jokes, but if you picture a hillside, and on this hillside is growing a tree, this side of the tree, on the downside of the slope, you can imagine the grain tightness is relatively wide. On the upside of the slope, the grain tightness is growing a little slower, so the grain tightness is going to be a little tighter. So I got to thinking, well, when I buy a barrel, I want all the staves to come from this side because they're tighter. And so with tight grain, you get a much slower aging process and a more interesting development in terms of harmony with the wine. That tight grain in France is called Allier. Allier is one of the forests within the region. There's Nevers, Tronchet, Vosges, and Allier. So Allier tends to be the tight grain. And so that's the sort of wood that I'm purchasing for making fine Merlot and fine Cabernet. And French oak does impart some more soft vanilla and creamy character and a little bit of spice, but I also use a little bit of American oak because it adds a little bit more weight and power. And so this is the difference between using a French oak and an American oak.